I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Moose Lake City Council for Wednesday, September 13th at 4 p.m. And I'd like to start with a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank all our guests for being here this afternoon. Thank you for coming. Next item is the agenda. I believe we have some additions.
Yes, so we'll have two additions. Letter M will be Police Department Administrative Assistant hour coverage discussion. And then letter N will be part-time police officer coverage discussion.
Do we have any other corrections or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, do we have a motion? Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to number 2, the consent agenda. 2A, the minutes. Number 1, the regular city council meeting for August 9th, 2023. Number 2, the emergency city council meeting, August 15, 2023. And number 3, the joint meeting with the Moose Lake, the sewer district, let's put it that way, August 13, 2023. Do I have any discussion or questions on the minutes? Hearing none from anyone? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under 2B, the financial reports. Number 1, the city accounts payable for August 2023. Number 2, the city financial statements, August 2023. And number 3, the liquor store profit loss statement for 2023. Any discussion or questions? Anything listed that you have?
I don't believe so.
Hearing none from the council? Do I have a motion to accept the financial reports as stated? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3 is public comment. This time is reserved for comments from the public on matters not listed on the agenda. And will please keep those comments to 3 minutes. I believe everyone here does have an agenda item they're here for. Very good. Moving on to number 4, departmental reports. 4A, the police officer Chad Department for August 2023.
Yes, so in your packet, you'll see the report from the police department. For the month of August, there were 334 total calls for service, 23 business checks, 81 extra patrol, 97 traffic stops, and 9 community engagement. Calls to respond, there were 15 assists to other agencies, 104 calls for service, and 5 medicals, for a total of 334. The interim supervisor listed on this report, Chad Pattison, is now interim chief. And so he did provide a little message for council regarding his efforts to continue to recruit officers to fill open shifts. And to account for the drop in self-initiated calls for the month of August. So, interim Chief Pattison is currently on vacation. I'm hoping he's having a blast out in Montana, I believe. So, when he returns, he will be presenting at the next council meeting.
Well, we do have an officer present, and thank you for the work this last month. And pass it on to their officers, please. It's greatly appreciated. Moving on to 4B, the city superintendent, Phil Ebner.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Administrator Owens, busy month. Nobody wants to hear this, but we are wrapping up with summer activities. We're getting close to that fall, winter thing, nobody likes it. Some people actually do like it, but some of us don't. So we're gonna make this quick because we have a lot to touch on later tonight. So the water department distributed 7.0 million gallons of drinking water in the month of August. Hydrant flushing will be happening next week, all of next week. There is a notice in the paper for that. Residents will see some discoloration of water, lack of water pressure at times. Any long-standing issues that go with that, just reach out to the public works department, who will take care of whatever we can, whatever we are able to do, and we'll get everything back up and rolling. The sewer department, the collection system collected 10.8 million gallons a month of August. The sanitary sewer flow meter will be getting calibrated on Monday, so that'll be another thing to check off the list. The treatment side of the sanitary sewer system, we're looking really good. All the brushing, mowing is completed out there for the year. Potentially one more fall discharge, which will be lower than normal. Typically we have about 4. We should finish out with about 2.5 to 3 this year. So that's showing positive things for our lining progress that we've made. So that's good. Street department right of ways, 2nd Street patch, the catch basin on 2nd Street, we're in the middle of construction with that. We'll be finished with that on Friday. 3rd and Cedar catch basin decided to collapse on us yesterday, so we'll be working on there next week. Pothole filling is completed monthly. Road patching is an ongoing process that won't quit until hot mix plants goes down for the year. Right-of-way maintenance, ditching, mowing, grubbing, clearing, all that's happening throughout the middle of all this as well. We still have quite a bit of patching to do yet this year, so if residents in the community see an area that needs attention, just reach out to me. Absolutely, put you on the list, we'll get you done if we can, and we'll just kind of keep going. Cemeteries, campground, and parks. Cemeteries are just about wrapped up. We'll be winterizing those next week. Final tear down and removal of all the monuments and all the flowers, the hanging baskets, the shepherd books, all those will be removed next week. Campground, that's coming down to the end here of the season. We'll be winterizing that system Monday the 2nd. So that'll be all completed and buttoning things up there. And then the arena, just some small maintenance things we're doing down there. One extra thing I want to touch on, Moose Lake is hosting a wastewater continuing ed training class tomorrow at the. So council, mayor, admin, come on up, stop in and see what's going on. This is it's a free service we will offer with the help of Minnesota Rural Water, and it's a free service. It's a bonus for us because all of our licensed operators, we have 3 of them, get free contact hours. Instead of sending our guys out to Minneapolis, St. Paul, St. Cloud at the $205 to $700 a piece, we get something free, which is awesome. So I end up having to grill lunch, which is cool. Everyone picks on my grilling, but that's okay. It is what it is. It saves us a bunch of money. So we got a bunch to touch on later, but that's all I got for now. Any questions?
Real quick, did the park board members get the items to you? I know I haven't.
No, they have not all gotten to me. Some have, but
Not
all.
everything.
Nope.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
Moving on to 4C, Municipal Liquor Store Department Report for August 2023.
Hello, members of the council, Mayor Shaw, Administrator Owens. I put an invitation for you guys. Looks like this. So Donna Kirk with the township has accepted a new role as Community Relations Program Manager for Essentia Health. You might ask yourself, what does that have to do with the liquor store? Well, first she's inviting the council and the mayor and administrator to the party. And also, she's wondering if we would be able to discount some beverages from the liquor store for this event. I'm not sure what the standard practice is. Normally, I would bring this up at the liquor board meeting, but she's in a bit of a time crunch for this, so I'm just asking for any input, I guess. Otherwise, if you want, I can come up with something.
You oversee it,
Yeah.
as far as the manager, so I guess you use your letter, because you have strictly authority.
I couldn't hear all that.
I would say use the scope of the authority as he sees fit, and we're not looking at, sweeping things, I guess, if we've done it in the past. That's what we give people positions for, so I would say that's what we should do as a member of the liquor committee.
I think we should have consensus with everyone.
This is for the foundation, just the foundation.
For Essentia Health, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for a good cause, I have no problem. Listen, any concerns or things you think of? Okay.
And I'll follow up with the liquor board then on what decision was made. Is that good? Good. Over Labor Day weekend, Rock the Riverside went really well. The Moose Lake Muni was down there, so kudos to the Moose Lake Area Hockey Association for the event, even though it was super hot out that weekend. Also, you'll notice some small repairs cosmetically. Joe Adamczak is fixing up, there's a hole in the restroom. There's some, I don't know, trim on the outside of the building he's gonna take a look at, just some minor things. So look forward to that. That's what I have for the liquor store today, other than, you know, as we get into the slower seasons, I like to think of that as we're busier in-house management-wise with planning for the following year. So looking forward to really sitting down with Mari and getting some stuff ironed out.
Questions by the council? Thank you very much,
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. Under 4E, excuse me, 4D, Technology Library Department.
I'll touch on the technology part. I've been very busy with this. Had a lot of meetings, some web demos, all sorts of stuff with VC3. Next week, they will begin their part of the background for our server upgrade. So they won't be touching anything or doing anything. They're just getting all of their bases covered on their end. And then when they complete that, then they'll start meeting with me and with perhaps other departments. In the meantime, to be more proactive, I've been emailing with departments, getting what kind of apps they use, things that aren't normal search engine tools on their computers and their workstations, because we don't want to get caught off guard when this happens and things don't work. So the more we can be prepared for that and give them information beforehand, the more they know and are aware of it moving forward. Let's see, I've whittled down, they wanted us to replace a lot of workstations in the coming year. We've whittled that down to 5 workstations that really essentially need it now. These workstations do no longer receive security patches that come through. You all see that, or if you log completely off and you log back on, some security patches happen. There's some computers that are so old that no longer takes place, which means they're vulnerable to different things. So those 5 workstations should be replaced in the coming year, but 5 is better than 18. So let's see. Also went through web training on cybersecurity training. So we are getting a quote for that. It won't be very expensive, but something will be coming down the pipe as far as cybersecurity, and it helps with insurance purposes as well. So, any questions?
Council? Administrator?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan. City Engineer monthly report for September 6, 2023.
Yes, the agenda packet had the meeting minutes for our monthly engineering meeting. I'm just going to touch on a couple of these items. A lot of the meat and potatoes are going to be covered later on in the meeting. However, I did want to mention that we did receive our reimbursement from LCCMR for the Trunk Highway 73 trail. And so that was the last grant reimbursement that we needed to become whole on the phase 1 of the trail. That was a $330,000 grant that was received, and Taylor was very influential in getting that reimbursement for us. So thank you to Taylor on that. One thing from an audit standpoint, we never like the grants to float between years because the city essentially is holding the bag, so to speak, between each year. But that did happen. We were made whole again. That's really big. It's going to close out the funding aspect of the trail. In addition, we are now looking at all of the grant monies that we've received for phase 2 of the trail, and so design and planning and the scope of work is going to be started a little bit this fall and winter here, and then float into the next year. So there are terms and conditions on the grant money, so we just want to make sure that our process and what activities we're taking part in are reimbursable and that they abide by the guidelines of each grant. So that's kind of being scheduled in the background now. I should have a schedule to present to council on phase 2 of the trail next month, but that's exciting news as well. In addition, we do have a pay app to come later on, and some other items to share. Engineering has been really busy. We also will be looking at the 2023 lining project later on in the meeting as well. If you have any questions on these minutes in particular, please feel free to reach out.
Council? Before we go on, my pen quit. Does anyone have a spare pen? I'm trying to run out of ink.
Okay, Michelle.
Thank you, Paula. Moving on to 4F Chamber of Commerce updates, monthly report.
Yeah, the chamber has wrapped up a majority of their summer events. Today they shared that the triathlon netted the chamber $5,100, which was an excellent impact for them. In addition, there is the Brew Fest that's coming up. It'll be on October 14th at Docks, and tickets can be purchased on the chamber website.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to previously discussed business, number 5A, ordinance number 170, an ordinance for the keeping of livestock and hobby farms within the city limit.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, and Administrator Owens. So I think this was intended to be our last reading of this ordinance. We made 2 changes since last reading. We clarified on section 2, number B, or letter B, number 4. Chickens must remain on the owner's property at all times. So can't be letting them roam. And letter B, number 5, chickens must be kept indoors. And I know that Doug and I discussed yesterday maybe adding a clarification that means they are not allowed in the residence. So I'm not sure if we would need to do another reading or if we can make a motion pending that change.
So the city has accomplished all of their requirements as far as publishing and posting and everything of that nature. We have not received any feedback throughout the last 2 months, other than what's transpired within the public meetings and council forum. It's up to council. We have fulfilled all of our requirements.
If there's any questions about the 2 changes, that would happen now, and then we would do a motion.
I just
Yes,
want to make
good.
a comment. I think you misspoke on number 5. You said chickens must be kept indoors.
Outdoors,
You meant outdoors.
sorry.
Just to clarify.
Yes, thank you.
Any other comments and/or a motion?
I guess I'd make the motion to accept the changes that have been submitted to the ordinance 170.
And is that including accepting ordinance 170?
Correct.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other questions, or did you have another comment? Okay. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Good job on that. Under 5B, Moose Lake Fire District Board appointment. We do have an interested individual. I don't know if John is here. No, I guess not. John Lund. I did interview him, and he understands he's representing the city on the Fire District Board. And I think he did talk to our other council member that is on it. And he talked to the fire chief, and it was all positive feedback that I got. So I guess it's up to the council, a motion to accept John Lund as our city representative on the Fire District Board, along with Counselor. So do you have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Counselor, do you want to call John and tell him that he was approved? Okay. Thank you. Five C, evidently Phil has some information on 7th Street lift station lining update.
Yeah, just an update. In your packet on page 68 and 69, you'll see two pictures. There's nothing else to go with that line item, but that's okay. I was first kid. Anyway, regardless, that project is completed. That's just over $20,000 project. We ended up with $14,500 worth of grants for that project. That was a budgeted expense for 2023. It's all completed. Everything's good. Looks way better.
How deep is that?
Yeah, that's pretty deep, 22 feet or something.
Wow.
Thought it was important for council to see the before and after finished product. I think that's impactful in itself. In addition, when we're looking for proactive infrastructure work and repair, the ability to get a little bit of grant monies for it and then budget for the remainder. We continue to do our best with what we have, but that worked really well. So, in other areas of the city, we've already started to analyze as we're looking at next year's budget, where are opportunities for us to utilize grant monies and budget for the remainder portion of whatever the item or project might be. We'll continue to try and capitalize on these opportunities as best we can.
This process offers a 20-year warranty on it. This station is very close to having to be rehabbed, probably to $250,000. So $20,000 on a $250,000 investment is a lot of money, if we can do it. And especially if we do it at 75%. We're close to 75%.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Phil.
Yep.
Moving on to number 6, new business, Moose Lake City Campground seasonal camper request to remove property.
Oh,
City
yes.
Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor Shaw. So, just to provide a little bit of background for everybody in attendance today, the city received communication from the city attorneys regarding liability for personal property left at the city campground. In addition, the auditors had a communication with the city regarding, with it being a seasonal term, and utilization for our seasonal campers, the fact that there's personal property left there after the fact and there's no money or transactions or documentation of such or in an agreement with the city as far as leaving personal property there and then no money's being transferred for it outside of the season. That was brought forward, and then from an insurance liability standpoint, it's been called out to us. With all three of those triggers, so to speak, the city engaged with the city attorneys to help draft some type of letter. That letter did go out for council approval and then went to every seasonal. That letter was received by all the seasonals, and one piece that's in your agenda packet as well is the additional rules and regulations for seasonals. This documentation was brought back forward to city administration after the letter had gone out. What this is a document that was provided to seasonals, I believe around 2017 and possibly prior to. So this document was received and interpreted by seasonals, and so I think we have some here today who would like to share their thoughts on the matter.
Just a question real quick, do you guys have a spokesperson? Did you?
Couple. Like,
Okay, all right. If you could please come up to the podium and state your name.
My name is Doug McIntosh. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. We drafted this, as the seasonal site holders, we're requesting that the city administrators rethink their position concerning removing personal property from premises during the off-season. We were requesting that rule number 8 of the additional rules and regulations for seasonal sites be amended to read, the Moose Lake City Park and Campground are not responsible for any items or structures left over the premises. You leave them at your own risk. Here's what we'd like to have added: property shall be affixed in a manner which will prevent migration. All said property shall be inspected and approved by the city of Moose Lake. There are many members who are physically or financially not prepared to have these demands placed on them at the end of the season, especially with such short notice. Many members have physical impairments which need the stability of their steps or decks to gain entry or exit safely from their campers. All members who choose to leave such structures agree to perform all steps necessary to ensure that they remain immobile during inclement weather and provide visual aids to ensure everyone's safety. These visual aids should be as uniform as possible. Since the campground is not visible from any major roadway or thoroughfare and must be entered intentionally, we hope this will not be an issue. We believe that including these steps into the seasonal site holders rules way to protecting the environment from re-entering the lake, but also safety and security to all seasonal site holders and the city of Moose Lake. Because we do, so we have several that are physically leave their steps or decks and just to gain entry and exit safely. And we don't want to have the city be responsible for things that flow into the lake or any kind of damage. So we want to do our part as far as securing these and hopefully have them approved and inspected by the city to show that they're permanent structure. I don't want to say permanent, but immovable to the best of our abilities. But we'd like to have that uniform where it's not haphazard, where it's one person using one thing, somebody else using something different. We would be together and make it with high visibility items.
Before we start, did you have a question?
Well, I guess I can wait until after you're done
Okay.
speaking and then.
Could you state your name, please?
John Strongfire, appreciate the opportunity to speak as well. I'm a seasonal, I've been here for 7 years, and I'm also a camp host down at the campground. When we received the letter, we were obviously a little bit upset because it was our understanding through the rules that were given to us when we came here that we could have, if you read the rules that were passed out, we could have a deck, we could have a shed, and it had specific things. It could only be 6 inches high, it could only be 8 feet wide, it could only be as long as the camper. There's a lot of things in there, and it also said that we could leave our stuff there over the season at our own risk. And that's what we're operating under. And the problem comes is, like, I have a deck that was built because we had difficulties getting in and out. I'm a little better now, but we were having difficulties, my wife and I. We built a deck at a cost, and it's 24 feet long. We have a 40-foot camper, 24 feet long by 8 feet wide. I can't move that. If this road goes through, I'll have to take a chainsaw to it and burn it. I don't have a semi to haul it away. It's only 6 inches tall, so it's not a risk to anybody. One of the other comments that were things that were in this, it has to remove everything. There's some campers that have just carpet down, but according to the rules, they're going to have to roll up the carpet that's been on the ground for a few years and take that away. It'll destroy that as well. My hope is that we can, and the third one is the stones. There's some patio, people have patios with a screen house over it. They're at the same level as the ground, and they're stone. I mean, they can't float. You can't trip on it. You can't do anything, but according to that, we're gonna have to go in and pull up the stones, take it out. So we're looking at it as like Max said, as something that's a little bit reasonable. We understand there may have been a little bit of creep on the rules, and some things were left down where they shouldn't be. And we can address that as seasonal campers and working with the city to make sure none of that happens again. Make sure the wood piles are gone so that doesn't get into the lake, and make sure there's nothing, fridges or anything like that floating around. We want to secure our stuff to the ground safely. And we think that if we do that, all the risks are gone. You did mention one thing that the auditor said, that there's nothing in place that allowed us to keep it there. And with the rules that I just showed you, rules were provided by the city, and that was in place for us to keep it there over the season. So that really was, that's why we did it. People invested in stairs and decks and a lot of other things, because that's one of the beauties of being a seasonal. And we love being down at the campground. It's a nice place. And I want to compliment the city too, because in the last few years we've had some major improvements down there, and how it's running, and it's, you know, and how it's starting to look, and we're really excited about that. But this change of this rule would be difficult or impossible to some of our people. They'd have to actually hire it out to get the stuff out, or destroy the property. So we're hoping there's some medium ground that we can come to, that not everything has to go. But the stuff that can be secured to the ground, and the stuff that's not above that height level as people are going to hit, I think that's reasonable compromise. Hopefully we'll consider that. The other thing is, you'll see that we've had some concerns, is some of the frames for the screen houses are left down there. And the reason those are left down there is because there's no top on it or anything. It can't go anywhere. It's secured to the ground, very visible because it's above the ground. But if you take them apart and you try to put them together again the next year, it was difficult to put them together the first year. The second year, everything's a little bit bent, so you almost have to get a new one almost every year. That's why they kept them up, because then we could use them for at least 2 or 3 years out of there. So we hope that there's some medium grounds that we can come to, that that not everything has to go, and we can keep some of the stuff that people with handicap, accessibility issues are not going to have issues, and some of the things that aren't going to cause a hazard to the city are not going to float into the lake. We'll make sure that happens. So, but I thank you for your time.
You have is there another spokesperson? Well, I'll open up questions to the council.
I just want to make a comment. I've been on the council for a long time, and I think this has been brought up before. I recall regarding the steps and decks, because in the winter they get covered with snow, and we get people that snowmobile around here that aren't from the area and do not know the structures are underneath the snow and have hit them, and that's where the liability comes in with the city.
I can speak to that. I mean, the decks are 6 inches tall, so if you have enough snow, you're snowmobiling, you're going to go right over the deck and not even know you hit it. You should be able to see the stairs, because most of them are this tall. If we have that much snow, that's another issue, I guess. Yeah, but so they shouldn't be hitting. The only thing that was hit last year was a picnic table, which had nothing to do with the seasonal campers. None of their stuff was hit.
No, I know this has gone on
Right.
for years, and I know that was the big thing, is
Yeah.
these stairs were being covered by snow, and people that aren't from around here don't know that stuff was there, and it was creating a really big.
And that's what Max said. He said, we're more than happy to put flags on these things or surround the whole deck with snow fence at our own cost. We're more than willing to do whatever it takes to keep the stuff there. If the stuff is flat on the ground, shouldn't be a hazard. But if someone's running into a step, they probably were at the Muni before they went down and snowmobile.
I think you guys realize that no matter how the accident happens, the city becomes liable. And when our insurance company says you have to remove it, that puts us in a real spot. If it isn't, I would imagine we're gonna be hit with a higher cost. It's not a simple thing for us, and the liability is real because we have been sued before for issues that happened in the city. It's unfortunate that those things happen, but they do. So Go ahead.
That was brought up, and the seasonals were more than happy to at least go into conversation if we have to pay to store stuff there over the winter, that would cover the insurance. You know, we'd like to have a discussion, see what that would be, that way it'd be insured and the city wouldn't be at any risk.
It's not only that, it's if a case goes forward and they win the case, it's not a simple thing as just the expense for the insurance. I think you understand that.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to only leave stuff there that can't cause that problem. It's at ground level. I mean, it's ground level, and I don't know how anybody could get injured hitting something that's at ground level.
You'd be surprised.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
you need to keep in mind that there's many, many poles inside the campground. There's electrical boxes, there's water faucets, there's stumps, there's many, many, many things in there that can get hit as well. I know they're owned by the city, so, you know, if we get hit, then well, it's on you, but, I think the decks and the patio stuff, the least hazardous thing down there, that people could get on a snowmobile. In a perfect world, snowmobiles wouldn't be in there. I mean, I don't think they're supposed to be in there.
Well, they'll get on the lake and they'll
Yeah.
be all over the places.
Yeah.
And it usually happens at night or at a time when I think nobody else is around and the officers are doing patrol, and you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Or they'll drive. But
Well,
thank
what
you.
we're asking
Thank
for
you.
is at least some consideration, and hopefully that there's some things that we can leave there that aren't the big risk to everybody going through the park. So we don't have to burn our decks and things like that. And I don't understand at all what pulling patio stones out of the ground that are ground level would accomplish, but I'm not sure I could get it out. When I got it in, that's what wrecked my back, so.
Well, I understand. Thank you. Council discussion?
I think the big thing comes with our legal counsel, what they tell us we have to do. If we can bring information back to them and tell them that you came here today and that there were some ideas brought forth, are there things that would be acceptable? We could look at that and bring that to them. I think that we should, and see where that goes. But we did have problems with flooding this last year. There was a lot of personal equipment, or personal items that were left by people that ended up in somebody else's yard somewhere down the river. So that wasn't good either. So I think just awareness of what's happening and trying to work together to figure this out is where it's gonna come to.
I think we have one problem. The park closes, everyone is out of it at the end of this month, or is it the
First of October.
1st of October, so, and we're not meeting before then. If it goes to if we send it to the lawyers, we would have to call a special meeting, so that they know, and if the law firm says the advice is absolutely not, they even have less time to prepare their stuff.
Well, I guess I'm kind of thinking on seeing Doug. I mean, you're told now you can't, but if we're willing to go to the lawyers and talk to them and see if there's something we can do. If not, yes, you'll have less time to get it off, but we could call it, I would assume a special meeting, get an answer pretty quickly.
We have about 17 days, so we'd have to go, if that's gonna be the recommendation of the council, which I'll ask for in a minute, just so you're aware of the timeline.
How many seasonals are there down there?
20, yeah,
Two.
yep.
22.
And we have an email address for everybody that we could get out a quick response to.
We have personal addresses, we have email addresses, and then, you know, a lot of this stuff is just hand delivered, and, you know, we have hosts down there on the weekends as well that the city partners with for all types of activities, so.
Yeah, I just meant what would be the fastest way to get the
Sure.
information to them if they have it, to get it out. But I guess that would be my recommendation.
I know that, and I understand this, I understand both sides of this. After the 2012 flood, we did tell the long-term campers, everything had to be done. Because that flood literally took just about everything up into the lake, and I know some of the camp, I would say the motorhomes, camps, whatever, literally got flooded. And the cost to the city down in that campground, because FEMA would not cover personal property. Phil, do you remember the total cost in that campground after?
I don't know.
I mean, we're talking, I'm guessing up a couple $100,000 to the city. I don't wanna be put in that situation again. We don't know when that'll flood again, or how much, or where, or when. And I don't know how many years we were into that situation where nothing could be left. Maybe some of the long-term, do you remember that, and how long that was? Because I don't remember going back to this scenario that's here, and I'm guessing the people who we had running the campground established this. I don't remember this coming to the council.
I don't either, to be
So
honest with you.
I'm guessing either Joe created this and posted it, which I don't remember it even going through the park board. Do you remember any of the long-term that have been here since 2012? How long that was that we said you couldn't keep anything down there?
I got the letter in 2017, so that you could.
So the
You got it at 17.
So somewhere between 2012 and 2017, that obviously changed.
I couldn't hear you.
Sometime between 2012, when you said nothing could be there, and 2017, that's when it had
Something,
changed.
yes, it did.
So the rules don't address off-season
Yeah, they do.
versus in-season.
It says you can leave your stuff there over at the end of the, very last line, at your own risk.
Just a-
I mean,
Not responsible for any items.
that could just be a general statement for when you go home during the week and come back on the weekend as well.
Well, for one thing, the statement isn't true,
No, which is.
because the city is always responsible.
Sure.
And just because the statement says you leave at your own risk, you can still make a claim against the city. That does not hold in a court of law, or nor does it hold even with our insurance company.
So there's
It looks good and sounds good, but that isn't true.
Mayor Todd, there's a couple of other issues here that I just want to make sure that are all on the table and discussed. When this issue first came up from the attorneys and the city building official was brought into the mix, there's no record of building permits for any of the permanent structures. There's no record of initial inspection. And so, you know, from his perspective, when we were asking questions and engaging in dialogue, you know, we would be paying the city building official to go down and do inspections. I'm just wondering, John, too, you know, would it be an issue for things that were more than 6 inches off the ground? So if decks were okay within that 6-inch threshold, and that's something that the city attorneys can check off. What about the steps? Because a lot of the steps have some type of landing or deck structure with them too.
They're connected to the
Correct.
next one.
So,
Well, it depends what your, what the steps are, what the concern of the steps is. If it's flooding, well, it won't flood because it's connected to the,
Sure.
it's connected to the deck, so you can't go anywhere. If it's what snow wheels hitting it again, they're this tall, so I mean, it's possible a snow wheel could hit it if he wasn't watching it.
sure.
But if they have to take it off, they'd have to take it off somehow.
There was one situation where it must have probably been kids they were using one of the steps as a jump during the winter, actually,
On what?
on
Snowmobile.
on a snowmobile.
Did you like the ski puck?
They were going up the steps,
Really?
doing the fly. And we had to put a stop to it down there.
And that's worrisome. There was an incident here, must have been 40 years ago, where there was a snowmobile that hit a snowbank out in front of the park on the lake, and the individual flipped the snowmobile, and the snowmobile came down on top of him, and the individual ended up dying from that. So there have been things of that nature that have happened in the past. We worry about things of that nature happening, somebody jumping the steps or just hitting them by accident, Obviously, we don't like people doing that, we try to stop them, but you never know when there's going to be people showing up down there, because it's so easy to access from the lake without having anybody see down there at times.
Again, we don't want to take the steps away, but I mean, it gets back to if there's a compromise at all, what can be done safely? If that's what we want to keep, because some of the stuff, it's just foolish. I mean, to me, pick up my patio stones and bring them back every year. I mean, it's just foolishness, and it's just creating work. It's not anybody's risk. We can't float, we can't be hit, So it gets back to, you need to let us know if there is any compromise in this.
Yeah,
It's-
I'll ask for consensus. Greg?
Well, I think there's possibilities of compromising, but like you're saying, if patio stone and stuff like that, that has nothing to do other than, let's just say things ground. They're not steps and something like that, okay, that can be either taken or moved or stored somewhere. But that's, okay, if it's somebody that's disabled or other people know people, then there's possibilities of having somebody come and remove it for them, to put it someplace where it's safe and can be brought back in the spring. So, okay, now that's two things that are taken care of at that part.
But it says carpet has to be rolled up too.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay, if that's on the ground, okay, if that's on the ground, that's not interfering with anything. Is that acceptable or not acceptable? That's about something can be worked out or not. That's a question.
So are you in consensus to have Melissa discuss with the law firm?
I would believe so. I mean, does that affect, will that affect the rates or not affect the rates? If they feel that does not affect our so-called liabilities.
Sean, may I say something?
Yes.
So the reason why the patio blocks were included is the attorneys did an analysis of all the pictures. And so a lot of times people are using patio blocks stacked in any different way, shape, or form to support structures or screen houses or frames or whatever it might be. So the reason the patio blocks are involved is they weren't being seen at an at-ground level. It's the stacks have been utilized to support other things, sheds, frames, that type of thing. So that's why blocks are that mentioned in the letter. So maybe, establishing a height threshold or.
That goes back to the 6-inch thing.
Correct, a height threshold, yep.
Doug?
Yeah, my original thought was the same thing, is if there's small things or things that can be secure, ground level, close to ground level, great. I don't want 4-foot steps, I don't want blocks, I don't want refrigerators down there. I thought we were really disrespected by the people that did that, and the community was, and it looked pretty junky down there. So that's not okay. But the other things that we can try to work with, yes, I think we should try to do everything we possibly can to work with them. Because they're here, they're helping the city, they want to be here, and we want them here.
Chris?
Support.
Walt?
Yeah, if there's room for us to find some kind of agreement here on some of the things, I'm all for it. I mean, we do greatly appreciate you guys choosing this lake. to do your camping and that, and you are a very valuable part of the community, even though you don't live here, you spend all your time
We
there.
feel like we live here, we feel like we're citizens of Moose Lake almost, because we're here so
Yeah,
much.
so if there's some agreement that we can come by, if we can get the insurance company to agree to some of that, I'm all for it.
Very good, we do
Can I
have
just make one more
consensus,
comment?
yes.
I
please.
think it boils down to what's a liability versus what is trash and, just stuff that,
Common sense.
common sense stuff that is left, like chairs and, refrigerators, grills, that kind of stuff. You know, the liability is stuff that we can, pardon? Oh, I thought you said that. You know, liability is something that, you know, the lawyers are gonna tell us, we gotta follow that, but, you know, working with what we can and what we can accomplish.
Well, we have consensus, so we'll let the city administrator to
Could I-
talk with their long term and
Like John just mentioned, like the gazebo frames, will that be considered, because they are attached to the decks? If we put snow fence around them, that's,
that's something this will have to talk to the law firm and insurance company.
just,
You know, it is more what we're gonna be told, not so much what the council will decide, you know, and tell you with what we have to do.
right.
So none of it is personal. It is what we have to follow, like any city anywhere with a law firm and an insurance company. And I know you guys have to do that with your home, wherever you go to home, whatever your insurance company's gonna tell you, you have to follow or pay the cost or, so I just want everyone to know, none of this is personal. But I do, one statement that was told to me is, we're not a motorhome park, we're a campground, which is a different category. It is not the same as a motorhome park. It's a campground. So that does change things in different categories with insurance, with law firms, with whatever. So I just want everyone to understand that and to know that, they'll have to make this decision and it'll be what we're told we legally should do. So I just want everyone to know that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. With that, I'm gonna move on to the next agenda item, and I wanna thank everyone that's here, and you can stay or you can leave.
We're gonna leave.
Okay,
It's getting close to dinner time, so.
I understand.
Thank you for your time, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just down the street.
Yeah.
Poor Gary's, how many times have you eaten there?
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Number 6B, the Riverside Arena Cooling System Repair Discussion and Rink Tech quote.
Yeah, so on page 73 in your packet, you'll find an estimate to find and fix a leak that is on circuit B in the hockey arena to $18,576.69. We have one quote because there's two of these refrigeration companies of this magnitude in the state, and the other one will not call us back. And if anyone knows anyone else who works on them, I would love that contact info.
All we can do is document who we contacted
Right.
and you did not report back when we've done our due diligence. So we have no idea if it's in the cement, in the
It's in circuit
compressor?
B.
Circuit B in the,
There's circuit B is in the floor, and it's also in the air in the compressor room and out at the chilling tower. So it's somewhere in between there.
okay.
It's in that, what kind of fluid?
R22. So, before we go any farther, I believe there's a few people who want to speak about this tonight.
Well, let's just wait. Let's see if we need that. Is there a discussion by the council and or motion on expenditure?
Is there budget money for this repair? repair or repairs?
So all of the repairs money for the arena in the budget has been utilized at this time. So we sat down and Superintendent Etner and I looked at the budget. The arena is supported by the general fund. This particular maintenance item would have to come out of another department's repair budget.
But without it, there will be no hockey. Or no ice.
You have problems, major problems.
Correct.
Yes, Greg?
You have no idea what section,
Circuit B,
that's what I said, you have no idea what section B
I know
covers.
it's in, I'm sorry,
You have no idea what section of ice Circuit B covers.
I do not know. That was built before I was born.
That's
So
true.
no.
You know, we have this is like any failure that we have in the city. This could be the cooling system above here, it could be at any of our facilities. To me, this is something that we should fund and complete. It's our responsibility to keep these buildings, that there's a responsibility that the citizens gave us for it to keep the arena running as something that the city enjoys. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't fund this and move ahead. Do we want it? No.
No, I just have a question.
Yes.
Another question. So, and this might be a dumb question, but will they like start at the least,
Expensive?
yes, area and
Yes.
work their way through?
Yes.
So potentially could be less than this, but this would be like the most cost if they had to go into the ice area?
That's what I'm being told, yes.
Okay.
Did you want to speak?
I would
Could you
like
come
to,
up to the
yeah,
podium
sure.
and just state your name? We need that for the record and
Absolutely.
stuff.
So I'm Amy Fitzsimmons, one of those crazy people who like winter and ice hockey here in Moose Lake. And I'm the president of the Moose Lake Area Hockey Association. And so there is an issue brought to the council under new business for the cooling system, and I would urge you to approve this item. The Moose Lake Area Hockey Association contributes to our community in a variety of ways. Through our gambling fund in 2022, we paid over $20,000 in rent to the municipal liquor store and to the designated city fund. And as of the end of August, we've paid $16,000 and some change into that same revenue stream. And that's just what we are paying the municipal liquor store and the city administrative fund that's included in Minnesota gambling taxes. Last year, we hosted 7 tournaments through the winter months, starting in November and ending in March. These tournaments last year brought in 648 skaters, not including our own hometown youth. These teams will bring their siblings, parents, guardians, grandparents. This easily equates to well over 2,500 visitors in Moose Lake as a result of hockey. We do as much business as we locally can. Meat purchased from Mattawa and TJ's, concession supplies constantly running into KJ's, running down to Kettle River Pizza to spend our money locally. We refer our families to Dairy Queen, Route 61, the Lazy Moose, Doc's, Pizza Pub, Poor Gary's, Rustic Diner, the Lake Cute Theater if they're looking for a movie, Route 61 for bowling. Families gather across the street at the brewery, who has helped us out when we've brought in outdoor ice and outdoor activities, and as well as our Rock the Riverside fundraiser. We spend a large portion of money at Ace Hardware, Valley Printing and Image Designs. Our building projects, we purchase our items at the local lumber yard, and we also fill up the lodging here as best we can, which is kind of limited. We're committed to supporting all of our area businesses as they give so much back to our kids, and if we don't have that ice, there's a definite negative impact on our community. I feel like over the last 2 years, our association has taken the lead in ensuring staffing needs could be met. We voluntarily raised our rent at the arena so that funding could be utilized for the city staff at the rink. You'll see in the next agenda item is to add another locker room and referee room for not only our referees, but for visiting teams. This project is estimated at $32,000 and is completely funded by our association. It's being completed by a local contractor, a hockey parent, and one of our coaches. We did host, as Ryan mentioned earlier, the fundraising concert, not only for a building fund, so it can be reinvested in Riverside, but to show our community other ways that the Riverside Arena could be used year-round to generate revenue. So our volunteer parents, our guardians, our family members, and our skaters put over 3,000 hours a year into our hockey program to ensure it runs smoothly, and that's just volunteer hours that we track. I think my family would beg to differ that I'm probably putting in that myself. We feel that we've also built a wonderful working relationship with the city administrators and with rink staff, and we're always there to try to do whatever we can to support the rink. But all those financial benefits aside, I think keeping ice on Riverside Arena is for our youth. It's the only rink within a 72-mile stretch along the I-35 corridor, and there's a long tradition of hockey here at Moose Lake. We currently have 125 children in our community, ages 4 to 14, who call it home, and then the varsity programs add another 40 to 50 skaters. Our kids are looking to you to ensure that the city seeks to make the necessary improvements for this repair, and as well as continue to work together with the schools and the association to find a long-term solution to our cooling system. And so I invite you all to come on out to the arena sometime when you see the cars, see the smiles on our little skaters, the skills and leadership that we're getting from our adults and older youth. And you'll see what that repair would mean. Something that isn't scripted, but just so you're aware, I served on a school board in Ely back in 2012, and we had the same exact thing happen where our Freon was leaking and we were spending a lot of money, and then at the end of the season, the Freon went. And so we did have to replace our compressors over the summer. Now, thankfully, it was a cold winter and we were able to finish out the season, but I would hate to do that to our skaters and to all of our families who depend on that ice. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Amy.
Yes,
Mayor Shaw, I have received a couple of letters from other individuals in support of the repair. I can read them publicly and or, I don't know if council.
you may, yes, please, since they came, let's read them.
This one says, hello, I hope this email finds you well. I was made aware last night that there's an issue with our cooling system at the Riverside Arena. I am writing to you to ask that you please provide the repairs to the cooling system. We have been a hockey family for over 8 years now. Riverside is such a huge part of our family. On top of being a big part of our family, Riverside is also a huge part of the Moose Lake community. From things like hockey tournaments to league games, Riverside is being put on the map. Our tournaments bring people in from all over the state. This is helping our local stores, which is in turn helps out our great community of Moose Lake. Please consider approving the repairs. That is from Mariah Leno. Mariah. In addition, I have one more. It says, good afternoon, folks. My name is Emily Hedman. Last year was our first year participating in hockey with the Moose Lake Hockey Association. Our experience was profound on the significance this program has for the children, but also as adults, parents, families, and as a gathering place in this community. I've learned that we are in grave need of repairs to our cooling system and need the support of you folks as council members to make these fixes. I'm hoping you see the importance the repairs are for the children and families in this community to keep this rink going and in shape to experience and share the surrounding communities. Joining Malaha was the greatest asset we felt in this community and connectedness with others in the area. We have enjoyed it all, from clearing rinks, working concessions, watching games, early morning practice on the rink, tournaments, etc. It's just been fun and exciting and has inspired my daughter in something she loves. It's been a great experience so far, and we hope that it can continue. I'm sure you folks know the importance this arena has for other families and the community that come to share it with us. I ask that you approve the need for this repair. It's a home away from home for many and a positive outlet for people. It would be awful to compromise the good thing we have going. Thanks, everyone, and have a great week. Emily Hedman.
Thank you. I got one question, a budget question. How much money did we bring in this year, if you have any idea, on our sales tax? Because our sales tax is designated for 3 things: roads, library, and parks. The arena's part of the parks. Do you know how much we have brought in?
So, I can tell you that every year it's been between, or for the past 3 years, every year it's been between $225,000 and $250,000. The city budgets $225,000 for sales tax.
So that is a revenue that we could use to repair that without taking it from any other department or from, and we can't use it out of the general fund?
We can use the general fund, we would just be taking the repair monies from another department, so.
I would prefer that we utilize myself with discussion of the council if they agree to use that funding mechanism that it isn't a large amount compared to the total that we bring in. And it's gonna take a number of years before we're ready to do another big road project. It takes time. Because what did we spend, $1 million? 1.3 to do 4th Street, so I don't see this as being a big stoppage for the same amount of time. I'll open that up for discussion with the council.
We have a couple items coming up here. The history with the compressors, we know that those compressors need to be done. This is just going to be fixing something so we can make it work for the unforeseen future. I get that. What does concern me is that we have a lot of money that's needed for compressors, and the next item is locker rooms. And I understand that locker rooms are great and they may be needed, and I'm not saying they're not, but I think that the big picture is those compressors is the number one thing. And then using our sales tax money, we have items that are coming up later that could address our I&I issue and actually fix our I&I issue by doing the 88 animal covers with that tax money. And I'm not against fixing this. I'm just saying it concerns me that monies are available for locker rooms that are needed, but the big picture is we don't have ice or we have new locker rooms. So that concerns me.
So we have had those conversations internally and between the city and Malaha and also the school district. So within the past couple weeks, city administrative staff and the other two parties have met to try and start to formulate a plan for compressors. So Malaha has money stashed aside for compressors and continues to fundraise for them. So I share your concern, Councilor Jutman. I think we all do, and so we've tried to be as proactive as we possibly can, and we're engaging with all three parties to say how do we move the needle on this and how do we make it proactive versus reactive. This is really unfortunate. This came, about the same time that we were having these other discussions, and some of these other plans had already come to fruition. It's really tough, I'll be honest. We have the second half of the season left, and our repair monies budget is up for the year in the arena. So we've had internal discussions with the arena supervisor, Superintendent Etner, and myself, and rationing our spending down in there, and it's just tough. It's the type of building when something needs to be fixed, it's very expensive.
No, I think something I want to mention too is that the school and the association are looking to split the cost to fix the scoreboard there. So there is some more money that Malaha is fronting for building improvements there as well. I mean, we can't have an arena without a scoreboard. And Administrator Owens is correct in that we had this plan for and drawn up the plan and hired the contractor for the locker rooms and had the money set aside. That's a need that we've needed for some time. And then we just were made notified of this on Thursday of this last week, that this was happening. So do we have the money to pay for these? We could drain some more of our funds for that and change our plans. But I think over the years, there have been times where we've gotten similar invoices, and correct me if I'm wrong, where the previous manager would just hand them to our secretary and say it was our responsibility to cover those expenses. And I think as the three entities have come to the table and talked about it more, it feels much more like a partnership, and everybody's contributing to the common good. But I don't want you to think that we are not aware of the irony of the timing of all of this.
Is it a possibility to state how much you have put away for your saving for compressors? Is that something you can give out, or?
Maybe put it in our meeting notes. I'm looking to my treasurer. It's approximately, I think it's approximately, what, 200,000 is what we have set aside right now for compressors.
Okay, thank you.
What are the voucher costs, like the consumption?
$558,000.
So I guess when I had asked about us continuing to work as the three entities together, that's really what we've seen so much progress in the last 2 years of that happening, where in the past, we could never even get an actual quote of what it would be. So we've been able to get that number, we've been able to set a goal. I think all three parties have been very creative in looking at different grant opportunities, campaigns, things like that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Council? Any other discussion, questions?
Oh, I think this is important to do, to fix this. The question for me is just where the money would come from. I guess I have a bit of concern about taking it out from the sales tax. I just feel that our infrastructure projects are so vast, so large, and cost so much. I guess I have a concern about taking money away from that. If there's other areas that we could look at, I may feel more comfortable about that. But
Is there anywhere in the budget that you kind of look through to see if there's, where we could take even partial of it from?
So we've been having our budget meetings for a couple of weeks now, so at this time is one of the times, you assess where you're currently sitting within all your departments. There are repairs and building maintenance line items within most of our departments. There were some monies from the community center that were set aside for maintenance and repairs that could be utilized, but it would also take monies from another department in addition to the community center line item for building repairs to kind of piece it together. I could come up with a proposal and
We don't
itemize.
We have a short timeline because the ice will go in before our next meeting.
So the community center and the arena are all coming from the general fund. So yes, each department has their own budget, but no matter where we would take it from, it would be from the general fund. So it would just be putting together repair and maintenance line items or building repair line items from anywhere within the general fund to help cover this cost, which is something that we can code it that way and we can do.
I don't know, when I think of all this, with what you're saying and what we're talking about with our sales tax, the sales tax to me was a pass, granted, our infrastructure bill is so high that we're talking tens of millions of dollars to get there.
We're actually not. We have a thing on the agenda that's later that I'd like to talk about, and I know that that's the perception. But actually, it's what you brought to the table with the 88 manhole covers and $400,000. That gets us to about 300 new homes in the city of Slate.
I'm talking about all the streets that need to be repaired.
Yep, I'm just saying as far as our pond capacity goes, we could put
Right.
300 more homes.
I understand.
So, and that's $400,000. So that's, and I get where you're coming from, because the line is
Right, I mean, to me, we got that passed for a reason.
yep.
That money designated in 3 areas, this would fit into that, and we're not talking about a huge percentage. We're not talking 50%, 25%. We're talking one-time expenditure. And if we did a grind and overlay, which I found every year, we wouldn't even get a block with it. But it is the council's decision. I have to live by the majority. If you so direct the administrator to, if it passes, to take it from other areas, just be aware that these other areas are going to hurt also. It's gonna be the council's decision, I know. So I'll ask for the council's motion on the expenditure and directing the administrator where to get the money.
I think we're all in support of, we need to do it. It's just where, and the unfortunate thing is with the sales tax money, there's only those 3 areas we could spend it on. We're in the general fund. We can't pull any of that money unless it would be one of those items.
Correct.
I'll make a motion that we approve the invoice for $18,576.69 from out of the sales tax.
General fund,
General.
do I have
Or
a
no, it's sales tax.
sales tax?
Yes.
Okay.
Fund.
Do I have a second? I don't normally do this, but I'll make the second. I always like the council to make a decision so that it isn't myself pushing at the agenda as a mayor. And I'll second that to move us along. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We have 2 ayes. Those against, say no. No. So that motion failed. Are there any other motions on the floor?
I agree 100% that this needs to be taken care of. I just think that we have to be fiscally responsible with the decision that we're making, knowing that we have these compressors that are bad, we know this needs to be done. It just is, where's it gonna come from? I really believe that I want to keep that we should keep the sales tax where it's at. And if the city administrator can come up with the funds out of different funds, that's fine. I understand it's just, it may be semantics, it's coming out of a different basket, but I really believe that there's things that we can do and show everybody what we're doing with that sales tax money. And I think that is seen from the public all the time. I do think that we should take care of the bill.
Greg?
My thought is that once we take once out of that sales tax, that's an opening for always taking.
Okay. Do I have, Phil, do you want to make statements for Astrid on the motion?
No, but I'm gonna have some questions depending on how this goes.
Okay. Do I have another motion on the floor? I normally don't do this, I'll do it twice in the same meeting. I'll make a motion and I don't think it's a good idea for mayors to do it, but I'll do it. I'll make a motion that we accept this quote for $18,576.69, and we use the general fund and give the city administrator discretion to find that money and move ahead with the project. So motion is made, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Any discussion on that?
Yes, we
The only
can.
other thing that came to my mind is this something that, since there is money set aside, $200,000 by the Hockey Association for them to share part of the bill?
Well, before you can do that, I already made a motion.
I know, I'm just asking.
I know.
And I didn't think about it before, I'm just wondering, and I'm not expecting them to pay the bill. I'm just saying, because if there's monies that are set aside too, we're all in the same boat trying to figure out how we're gonna get these compressors fixed.
I would
We're pulling from a
imagine,
budget that we don't have money from.
they would have to meet and vote themselves
Yeah.
also. Does your board meet? I have to ask this.
Yes, so our board does host regular monthly meetings. In the past, a bill like this would be something that was just handed to our treasurer and said, you need to pay this. So we paid these types of bills in the past to this amount.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're ultimately here to support the kids and make sure our funding goes to our kids. And could we could get a board together and make that, but, you know, then we're also paying for a scoreboard and we're also paying for,
Yeah.
we upped our rent. We're trying to save money too for the compressors, so.
Yeah, we're all in the same
Yep,
boat. I
yep.
mean, we have a police department that's costing us a lot more money too, and everyone is, and it's not pointing fingers, it's, and we're trying to all figure this out together,
Mhm.
so.
But yes, we do meet.
All right, well, we have a different motion on the floor right now with that question, so I have to ask, the motion and second is made, all in favor say aye. 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 Opposed?
Well, because there was some discussion, and I understand that I'm not against it, I'm just saying that I think that there could have been some other funding available. So I'm not against.
Understand. Greg? So, Butcher, aye. Butcher's aye.
Mine was no,
No. So three,
it still passes.
3 yeses, 2 no. Motion passed. Alyssa,
Got it? Thank you.
and I imagine you'll be bringing that to the council, how you do it.
I will provide an update at next month's meeting with how that was paid for.
Thank you.
Nope, I'm good.
Member, yes, that's right. If you have any questions, not this.
Nope, not now.
You're welcome to stay, or you can depart. Thank you. Moving on to 6D.
We got the
This-
locker room.
The locker room, excuse me. This is 6C. MLAHA Riverside Arena Reference Locker Room Project Discussion.
Yes, so you'll see in your packet that the Hockey Association and the and city administrative staff have kind of been in discussions regarding what needs are at the arena. We've tried over the past year and a half to take a more proactive approach. The idea behind the additional locker rooms is the ability then to host viable tournaments and have kids come in and have families come in. Our locker rooms, there are some that are very small, or if they're short in numbers compared to other area arenas. This was an idea that came forward. The Hockey Association has been proactive as far as taking the necessary steps, the permitting steps, and then, lining up plans and a contractor for the project as well. The plans and the cost estimate that you see within the packet are fully funded by the Hockey Association. What is being brought forward to council tonight is the approval to essentially have the project take place in the arena.
Council, discussion, questions?
So these plans, are they like the engineering plans? Has our engineer seen this? Because it's a city building? This is city buildings, correct?
So our engineers have not seen them. I would not engage our engineers at their hourly rate without, I guess, approval from council is where my mindset was, I guess. Making sure that the project was a go-ahead and then getting a sign-off on them. We have engaged our city building official at a slightly lower rate for review on permitting for the project itself. So our city building official is involved with all of the building code aspects of the project. And so he has been engaged, but our city engineers have not.
Because then there'd have to be some type of agreement if this happened, that the city would then take over owning, because it's our structure. So there would have to be some type of agreement there, and then we'd have to take it over knowing that it met code, met everything to do with anything that would involve our city engineer, that they would if we did it. I would take it if
Correct.
they had to.
And this is inside the building.
Okay.
Yep.
But there's something in there about load bearing walls and things of that nature.
Yeah, so there was another assessment done which did involve the city engineers. That is for potential expansion of our existing locker rooms, so taking down walls in between. A lot of times when teams come in, they have to get split between two separate locker rooms because of the size of the locker room. So we've been looking at that as an option as well. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Amy. The idea is to add capacity before you take some away. So this would be step one, getting this new locker room established. And then our city engineers were involved in the assessment of walls and structures in there, and they said, hey, you can take down some of these walls if you'd like. I believe they don't want to proceed with B before A is done.
I guess I can say that I know the day that the contractor went and looked at the space with us, he immediately contacted city somebody up at the city and spoke to this building inspector to try and figure out what exactly he needed, sprinkler system, that type of thing. The association has also bought a Connex that is stored at and paid for that expense to store those tables. Part of where we want to put this is to remove that liability of the tables and chairs being there where our dry lunch meeting is as well. So, but I know that the contractor has been in works with the city building inspector about that, and was drawing up. He actually had hoped to have the plans ready today, but he's been working with an engineer who he's partnered with in the past to draw up an appropriate plan for that.
Correct. So what was in your packet is a diagram, not building plans. So, yeah.
Here's open up.
Well, then I'm back and but then after this is.
Yeah. Also think that we should talk to Phil on his thoughts on this.
I couldn't hear that.
We should talk to Phil and have him give his thoughts on this as well.
Of course.
So I guess I'm a little confused. Is this for a ref locker room, or is this for an actual team locker room?
It's a referee locker room, but a team could fit in there as well if needed. So like a mite or the smaller youth teams could fit in there. It's bigger than the existing 4 little locker rooms that we have now.
Okay, sure. I will agree with the representative from the Hockey Association, absolutely. That corner that she's talking about with the tables and chairs, something's got to happen there. It is a mess. It is 100% mess, and this would be a good fit there. Absolutely. It is just a really bad catch-all for everything. So, other than that, now that I understand it a little bit more, absolutely, I have no problem with it.
Thank you. Council? If there's a concern by the council of an engineer group reviewing the plans before they're built, you could put that into your motion. It could be approved with the approval of the engineer group. That is up to the council.
And we're not dealing with any load-bearing walls?
No, this is an entirely open space.
Okay.
And as Amy had mentioned, so currently in the past, there's just been tables and chairs stored over there, primarily utilized for the flea market. Within the past year, the Hockey Association has bought and paid for a big Connex storage box that's now in the back of the arena. And so the intent is to move the tables and chairs there during the hockey season because they're not being utilized. Or, you know, we could have some stored upstairs, but for the most part, have those transitioned out. That space is a kind of a liability hazard as it is, as things could fall off of the racking the way it is now. And could be better utilized with some type of locker room and or, you know, a different method of utilizing the space as it currently sits. It is a mess.
So I just have a question, is this something you plan on doing this year? Before the season starts?
Our contractor can get started on it. And it's not going all the way up to the ceiling. There's already a room in the back there that has electrical switch and some cooling materials in that corner.
Sprinkler system.
Sprinklers, yeah, thank you. And so we have it so that it's not impacting any kind of walls or beams up above.
Council?
It doesn't sound like to me as a real complicated thing. If it was dealing with a bearing wall or things of that nature, I could see asking engineers to take care of it, but if it's a simpler project, we could possibly get away without that cost. I don't know what other people's opinion is on that or not.
Well, we have to have a building inspector involved, that's.
Well, the building inspector, yeah,
Right.
that's separate than the
And
engineer.
we've done that before with other construction within it, but it's a freestanding room in essence, not affecting the structure itself. Yes, Chris?
Did you mention though that the building inspector was working with
Our
some engineer that,
Yes, our contractor has an engineer who's helping him draft up the plans. So somebody he's worked with in the past to draft up a real plan, not just a
to handle.
sketch on a,
the.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
I guess if whoever makes the motion, I just want to make sure that they understand, that there's an understanding that this is real property, it's the city of Moose Lake's property once it's being built, and that needs to be addressed in whatever motion, because it becomes the city's property. So we just want to understand.
Council? Do we have a motion?
That's a good idea, I'll make a motion to approve the plans as submitted for the rec room. It was 12 by 6 roughly, with the understanding that the city building inspector's been involved, that there was a engineering consulted with, as was expressed today, and that there is some type of agreement that once this is built, that we as city takes ownership of the property.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
I do have one question I should ask before.
Yes.
Do we need to have a motion that this cost is borne by the hockey association?
It was not in the motion, but that's what we have
That's
asked.
the understanding, but
Right.
is that something we need to?
Funded by the Hockey Association. That was not in the motion, but it was in the discussion. That it is totally funded by the Hockey Association.
Do we need to make
You
a
want me to
motion on
amend
it?
it? Or
You could amend it to add it.
It's up to the council. You can leave it as is, or you can amend it.
I think we heard yesterday.
Yeah, for yesterday, I guess I'll amend my motion that it's this project is funded by the Hockey Association, and whoever second it wants us.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right. Let's see where we're at here. 204th Street. sewer line repair reimbursement request.
So on page 78 in the packet, there is an email communication from myself to Administrator Owens regarding a few issues with the sewer service. Over the last 6 months-ish. There's a couple diagrams here. I'm not gonna go word for word on that email. There is a couple of diagrams. There's a document I forgot to give to you, I'm sorry, that would sum this up very easily, so I'm going to do it the hard way, that's on me.
Okay.
And try to recite this off the top of my head.
Thank you.
Ordinance 161, I think it is, and it also goes with the frozen water and sewer line policy that basically calls out the ownership of water and sewer services to the residents of Moose Lake and what is the responsibility of the city of Moose Lake utility. On page 79 is an example or exhibit of a privately owned sewer lateral. The white line showing the actual ownership of that lateral and the connection of the main is exactly what this council approved is supposed to be the ownership of every service in town. We did that, I think, in 15, 16, 17, somewhere in there. That's how it's always been laid out. These two occurrences, this occurrence that actually they're asking for reimbursement for, because there is only one, happened on their portion of their service line. They're asking the city to take that, to reimburse that payment to them. Do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, so, essentially, the homeowners have started experiencing problems since the start of our 4th Street repair, or excuse me, 4th Street construction
That's correct.
project.
Yes. Mhm.
And so, from the homeowner's perspective and what's been shared with both Superintendent Etner and myself and Mayor Shaw at this time is that their belief is that our project has somehow impacted their line. So although the repair is on their portion, their ownership of the line, they would like to see council approve reimbursement based on our 4th Street project in general.
That's correct.
They were not having problems before the project, they stated, and now they're having problems after the project. Correct.
That is what they have stated, yes. Yes. Based on your policy, I would not recommend making this reimbursement. Your policy states it all very clear, that they're responsible for that portion of their right. It's very clear. But that's your guys' decision.
It's a little tough from an administrative perspective. We've upheld, both Superintendent Etner and I have upheld the ordinance and the way it states for ownership, and, you know, have expressed concerns that if this is reimbursed, then what type of precedent are we setting outside of our ordinance? It's been a really tough battle. It got to the point where it was requested that it come to council. That's a little more history on it.
Any questions by the council?
Was this caused by somebody else other than, who was this caused by?
Well, the first time it was caused by a different utility provider, which is the picture that is on, I think it's page 86.
Page 80.
80, yes, I'm sorry, 80, page 80. What you see in that picture is a cast iron forward sanitary sewer service. Below it is 3 2-inch MediaCom utility ducts that were bored through the service line.
So work was completed.
Yep.
The invoice was brought to the city. It was within my threshold of spending. Analyzed it with Superintendent Etner, Mayor Shaw, myself. It happened as a result of the 4th Street project. During the 4th Street project, that initial invoice was $3,000 and was expensed to the 4th Street project. Our engineers were involved in these conversations as well. This is a secondary issue that they are requesting reimbursement for at this time.
Can we go back to the first thing? 'Cause So MediaCom did not pay for that.
No, the conversation started that the homeowner had to go after the utility provider. That sewer service is owned by them in our public right of way. However, we are by law forced to locate that service for them. It was located. The locate marks were good. It was a good locate by us. Essentially, our marks weren't off. It wasn't because of a conflict with the locating error. They were told twice to communicate with this utility provider and work this out with them. This is a civil matter. This has nothing to do with the
But
city.
we paid for it.
We did.
The first repair.
And that wasn't brought to council, or was?
No, that was within her preview of dollar amount that could be done by discussion with the city administrator.
We had talked with this over with our city engineers as well. The scope of work was because of the project. The homeowners themselves had communicated, they reached out to the service provider, and the service provider was not responsive. After that third round, where the service provider was not responsive to the homeowner, and after additional continued discussion with our engineers, the repair was made and expensed to the project itself, because it happened within the project.
So the second?
So the second is from the location, the picture on page 80, where you see the communication duct and the sewer service. It is 8 feet closer to the main, which is still involving their own service, which was never exposed during the original fix, because we don't expose any more pipe than we have to. Fix what you have to and get out of there. That is a section of their service from where, when Birch was done, there was a PVC lead brought off of Birch and connected to their cast iron service. If you look, what you see in that picture, left to right, is a piece of 4-inch Schedule 3035 PVC with a 4-inch vertical, about a 4-foot piece of cast iron, 4-inch ductile iron pipe, and then on the right side, another 4 by 4-inch vertical to go back to PVC. Once again, this portion of pipe is strictly owned by the customer or by the resident.
Do you think that was done at a previous,
I think this was done when Birch was reconstructed, is my guess.
probably had a break and it was redone at that time?
Could
Because it
have.
looks like a patch.
Because that is what, the picture on the right, the Fernco on the right, that is considered a shifted joint.
And we had no heavy equipment that ran over that ground.
So that comment was brought up. Where that service lays is 39.7 feet outside the construction window of the project.
So we had no
Was
heavy
there,
equipment.
was there heavy equipment running down there? Absolutely, but there's heavy equipment that runs down there going over streets over there. So that's, to me,
I mean,
that's
over the pipe,
over the pipe.
no.
No.
Council, any further questions, discussion, or motion? I don't know if we need that, well, we have, it has brought forward for reimbursement, so we would have to do a motion one way or the other.
Well, if we voted for it, we'd be voting against our own ordinance. So, motion to deny.
And setting a precedent, too.
Based on our ordinance, I make a motion that we deny.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to 6E, 405 First Street tree reimbursement request.
Once again, another email communication from myself to Administrator Owens on, looks like July 19th. the tree that was in the city right away fell onto the address house, a garage and vehicle at 205 First Street. Sorry. So sorry. They're requesting reimbursement for cleanup of that tree.
And how much is that? I don't see the reimbursement amount.
So it is on page, it's on page 89, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, it's 3850.
89 page. Oh, I see. Oh, it's not. There's $380.
No, 3,800.
3,800 3,850.
And this is brought to our insurance.
Pardon?
This is brought to our insurance, looks like there's a letter in there.
Correct. So initially, when the incident occurred, it was immediately reported to our insurance. We went through the entire claim process. Our insurance company has issued a statement that the city is not responsible for the damages based on their assessment, and so they denied our claim.
If I could comment on that. The insurance contractor did state that the city was not liable for the damages, and I'm not asking for reimbursement for the damages. I'm just asking for reimbursement for the removal of the tree. And actually, city ordinance, 157, section 5, to paraphrase, it says, "A city will remove trees on public property or rights of way that are diseased, dead, hazardous, or public nuisance at city cost." And I have some other pictures if you want them. This tree, if you go and look at it, it's definitely diseased and decaying, and actually I'm concerned about the rest of it falling. And actually the same situation happened in our neighbor's yard this past spring, where part of a boulevard tree was blown down into their yard, and the city did remove it. So there is definitely a precedent set for this. And I know the city has removed other boulevard trees. Sometimes the city has done it, and sometimes I think it's been contracted. One more point I would like to make is that Moose Lake is recognized as a tree city as part of the Tree City USA program. And to be part of that program, the city is required to adhere to 4 standards, one of which is a community forestry program with an annual budget of at least $2 per capita to be used toward planting, care, and removal of city trees. So based on those items, I respectfully request that the city council reconsider the reimbursement for the removal of the tree.
Just to make, you already removed the tree.
We already did.
So without the city approval, because it's our responsibility to remove the tree, and you took it upon yourself to remove the tree?
Well, a little additional information. We were scheduled to have our roof reshingled starting the next morning. And the roofing contractor had parked a skid steer there. The tree came down on top of his skid steer and on top of our garage. So in order for him to do his job, we had to get that tree out of there. And because of the size of the tree, the difficulty of removing it, between discussions with Mr. Entler and the roofing contractor, we decided we needed to call somebody and get it taken care of. That's why we're done here.
Just to provide clarification, we're referencing 2 different removals. So you're referencing the initial removal of the tree when the incident happened, correct? That has already taken place. What you're requesting is reimbursement to take the remaining tree down?
No,
Okay, because,
just the initial removal.
okay, good, okay.
And if I can just speak, I live in Holly, and I drove by that tree today, and I was like looking at how decayed it was. Those limbs on those trees, we had one in our backyard, and one limb is the size of one huge tree. And that was what came down. They rolled off through the storm and went on top of their garage.
I have more pictures if you
Yeah.
want to see them.
So there is, a huge section of the tree that's still standing.
I'm not questioning whether it had to be done or not, I'm questioning how it was done.
Yeah, no, I know.
As far as our responsibility, if we had done it and been able to do it in a timely manner, it would have been $3,000 whatever to do it. That's what I'm saying, is I'm not saying that.
It's my understanding that the city doesn't really have the equipment to remove that big of a tree that's fallen on the house.
The water and light removes a lot of trees, we remove some trees with.
Yes, Phil, go ahead.
I actually looked at this and we should not have touched
No,
that tree.
I
Yep,
understand
yep.
that.
I don't even have a piece of equipment big enough to lift that portion. The city does not, I'm sorry.
Council, decision, direction? I myself feel that this is a responsibility that we should take care of. I don't see a reason why we wouldn't. There are circumstances, it sounds like a contractor involved, and what Phil has said, this had to be done quickly.
It was rather dangerous, leaning over the garage, over the truck.
Yes, sir.
It was rotten. And when it came down, you could see the hole inside, it was just rotten.
So was ours. And one more thing,
Yes, sir.
you were notified
Yes.
of this?
Yep.
And it was taken care of with your understanding that it was being removed?
Yes.
You didn't know this was gonna happen, that we were gonna be asked for reimbursement?
That's
but
correct.
You knew that it was gonna be done?
Yep.
Okay. But my big thing is, as Councilor Lauer said earlier, I don't wanna set precedent, but since we did have, Phil was notified, I'm okay with that, just so we're not doing things in the wrong order. I would make a motion to reimburse the family for $3,850, is that correct?
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Phil, is there a plan then to take the rest of that?
That's what I'm coming to talk about. So
Thank you
before we
very
move
much.
on, thanks, Molly. We had a tree very similar in size over here on Third Street taken down 4-ish years ago. At that time, it was like $6,500 to take that tree down. We have a lot of trees, for example, there's a lot of trees on First Street that are just like this one. Like a lot. Like, the verbal quote I got to take the remainder of this tree down is $4,000. Something to think about. We have a really tough budget. We don't have any money. We get it, but just keep it in mind. And I stated it publicly, so I don't know what else to say.
Well, it comes down, if I may, it comes down to what type of program do we have set up here for taking care of that? It is the city's responsibility to take care of the trees that are in the boulevard. So if we can't point at the water and light, they can't point at us. We just have to be able to take care of what we have to take care of.
Absolutely.
This was a private contractor that took this down? What you see the power company taking down trees at times, some of these rather large ones, what's the difference when we have the power company do it and then we go get a private
Well,
contractor?
first of all, they have to have time, and if it's at the moment, they may be doing another project. That's one thing, time element, they may be able to do it, but it'll have to be scheduled, or it's an emergency, or there's, several things. I don't know if they have equipment that could cover that heavy of a tree anyway.
They have the equipment to take it down in pieces. Once it's in pieces and not laying on a resident's roof or vehicle, we can do whatever we gotta do. I would totally welcome the opportunity to work with them to combat some of these issues.
And
I
of
would
course,
absolutely love the opportunity.
their commissioner would have to agree to it.
Yep, absolutely. But just so you know, from a public works standpoint, we would welcome the opportunity to do so, for our taxpayers.
Yes, Greg?
power company wouldn't take that tree down. They won't go up it. They won't go up that, take it down piece by piece. If they have to get out and climb that tree, then they will not climb the tree.
That's what I mean, it's totally, their commission knows what they can do and not do. I mean, it sounds good, and it can be asked, but that would have to be totally planned and agreed upon by Paul and Lake Commission too, to start with.
This particular tree, I mean, I think it's, depending on the snow we have in the winter, it would be a good idea to have it removed before the winter comes, because it's going to go across into, on top of Rentz's house next.
It's
because
that big, it's huge.
It's leaning this way now. Holland's to about that way, but
And it's gonna take on a bunch of power lines.
yeah, and I know this because my backyard has some of the tallest trees in Moose Lake in it, and I look at, every winter when it's blowing, and I'm waiting for one of them to come down in my house. So,
These are items that
it is
probably
rotten.
should enter in the next few months in our budget discussion we have to December.
Well,
I know this is short.
Like I said, I mean, just drive by when you live
Budget
here.
is today.
It is rotten, and you can see that
Yeah.
it is rotten.
I will reach out tomorrow to Harlan to see if we can get some
Even
help
if they
with
could
that.
take some of it down
Yep.
to,
We've done some of that in the past with them.
I think we need to coordinate with the commission too. We can't sidestep them and go right to Harlan.
So we should bring this to the next.
We have a meeting coming up next week.
So
We
that
will
should
bring it to the
definitely,
paper.
yeah.
How many would you like me to bring to the meeting then?
What's that?
How many tree requests would you like me to bring to the meeting?
No, and this is where council is gonna have to, I heard the statements tonight, that you would not use the sales tax, but that sales tax, the discussion had all these different items in it to get it passed, down at the legislature. I know nobody here went, but the discussion with them, that you have to put all these items out for them to pass it. And they ask you 1,001 questions, so you guys have to make some tough decisions here about how you use that or not use it. And I've heard that tonight, and that's okay, because if you don't have the discussions, things will never get done. So that's okay with me, but that's up to you how many trees you want to bring. Anyway, thank you very much. Thanks, Polly.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to F, 4th Street Reconstruction Project, Vet and Company Incorporated Pay Application Final.
Okay, yeah, so in your packet, you'll see the final pay application for the 4th Street Reconstruction Project. The amount due for this application is $10,717.90. We have completed all activity for this project, and this is for the release of some of the retainage and to wrap up the project itself.
Pretty self-explanatory. Council?
City Superintendent, also first, motion to approve $10,717.90 as requested.
You have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Under 6G, 4th Street Reconstruction Project, Vet and Company Incorporated Project Acceptance.
You'll see in the packet, on August 17th, our city engineer group issued a letter with a recommendation that we accept the new 4th Street project. This is a formality, but it absolutely needs to occur, so requesting that council accept the project in its final.
You got the nod. Do I have a motion on the floor?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Any discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Under 6H, 2023 Sewer Lining Project, SEH Bid Award Recommendation.
So so within the packet, you'll see the recommendation from the city engineers. We had a bid opening. There was one contractor that submitted a bid. It actually is a contractor that we've utilized in the past. The base bid came in at $108,306.06. We were actually all surprised by this, pleasantly surprised by this. There is an ad alternate for $17,106.49. Superintendent Etner, can you review the recommendation, please?
Yes, I have. Looks good. I'm kidding. Yes, it looks fine. It's much better pricing than that we're gonna get. But that alternates for the manholes in that project. Yeah, these seem to be ready to go.
That's it, we got it.
That's all I got.
Okay,
That's
any
all I
questions?
got. I've been up here like for an hour.
Council have any questions, discussion, and or motion?
Is it one manhole? How many manholes?
1, 2, 3,
Eight.
4, 5, 6, 7.
8 total manholes. So, but it's 48 total linear, vertical feet of manhole. Yes, sorry. So the base pricing is calling out 48, I believe it's 48. That quantity you see?
Yeah.
Yeah, linear feet, so yep. So just about 49 feet spread across the 7, 8 manholes.
And are those manholes the ones that we would say are the worst ones that are affected?
They are also, yes, they are also the remaining of the lowest elevation-wise closest to groundwater that we have left behind as well, so, along with the section pipe.
Perfect.
Yep, so this was, because remember, this is our second project we looked at, right? We had all of these already and it was too expensive. And this is definitely just a solid project. Yeah.
So we're looking for?
Looking for a motion to accept the bid recommendation. I guess, accept this contractor
Yep.
to do the project, in essence.
We do also have to specify whether or not the motion is for the base bid or the base bid plus the ad alternate.
And all of them would be manholes.
I think the motion will be accept the bid as presented, the base bid plus alternate bid 1, because that's where most of our action is coming from. So it's $17,106.49.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Phil. 6I, road project selection discussion.
Oh yes, so we've been working with our city engineers on wrapping up the 4th Street reconstruction project. In addition, we've been doing a lot of grant work with them, and so the LRIP grant has, the deadline is coming up. So the discussion with our city engineers is there an opportunity for the city to apply for the LRIP grant, which would be a 50% matching grant for our next road reconstruction project. Now, the LRIP grant has stipulations, and it requires that we select a project that connects to 73. So with that, we've had some internal discussion. Superintendent Etner, can you share some of that dialogue between what our options would be in comparison to what our CIP plan was established?
Sure, absolutely. So that LPP funding, right?
LRIP.
LRIP, I'm sorry, yes. Definitely is your 1st Street project, so project number 3 in the packet on page 97. That's definitely going to be that project that we want to go after. Project number 2 is not going to qualify for any of that funding at any time. I know they're in that priority level. When we did that plan, we did do condition of the hard surface, utilities, traffic flow and volume, so all those things are already encompassed in this survey. With that being said, I think for moving on with it, LRIP, is that right?
Yes.
I'm just spacing that one, I'm sorry. Moving on with that application, that 1st Street would definitely be one we should definitely consider.
That'd be from 73 up to Elm.
Or Douglas.
Yeah.
Douglas.
Yep. Arrowhead Lane's at Douglas Avenue.
To Douglas,
Yep.
excuse me.
I have a question.
Yes,
Is there a amount that we can spend on this that they're willing to pay 50% on?
I don't believe that there's a cap on this that would be relevant to these projects. Were you considering maybe an extension?
Well, I was just wondering, if they're willing to give us 50%, wouldn't it be wiser to do a larger project than some of the other ones, to pick a larger project, so?
So the tough part's going to be, there's a balancing game between when we can access the monies and when we'll have our match. So, with a little discretion from council, we can work with the engineers to determine when the money would be available and then how fast we're accruing our sales tax fund. With that, then we would know the scope of the project to be able to say, hey, we can cover half of that, and what does that look like, how far can we get? So there might be a need for a little bit of latitude, but the scope of the project will depend on when the funding would be available and what our sales tax fund would be at that time for a match.
So the amount of work that goes into planning a project like this is huge. We essentially just need some direction as to what you guys would like to see. You've seen it now, there's a pile of work that goes behind this, with engineering, with design, to topo, to the whole 9 yards. There's a lot. But we're not gonna start at number 2 if that's not the one we're gonna go after, if it's not the one you guys choose to go after. If that makes sense.
So previously, with previous administration, Second Street was selected to apply for LRIP. That was denied. Once that funding was denied, then the transition was made to do 4th Street. So I guess at this point in time, if council feels comfortable, we could select a project to work on for LRIP. If we do not receive the LRIP monies, we could then reassess project selection at that time.
and you
It's always
have
an
a
option.
secondary one right now, First Street, I understand. When I look at the intersection downtown on Elm going up to 4th Street and then from going up to the power plant, it's in bad shape too. But that doesn't mean that's the one the council will take. We got a lot of them.
So I will say this, there's 4 blocks of town we haven't basically filled holes on yet. That's one of them, and we have to do that at night because of the traffic loading. Everyone was actually gonna stay late tonight and do it, and then the hot mix line broke down this afternoon at 3 o'clock. So otherwise, we'd be listening to backup alarms and a whole bunch of other noise. But there is a couple areas that still need to get looked at. But that's fine. Same reason we plow snow there at 5 AM, because by 7, there's too many cars that are parked there to do anything safe for driving.
All right, council, decision time. What's our number 1? Phil's recommendation is First Street to apply for LRIP. The last time we got LRIP was Kenwood South, and we did it from 61 down to John Brown Drive. But we didn't have to tear up do all the piping and everything.
We did not do utilities at all.
And that cost was over 500,000, 700 and some thousand.
That's when we did 3rd Street as well.
Yeah.
The short piece.
Yes, we did. So just kind of give you an idea, I think First Street is an excellent choice. Chris, did you have something I saw you
First
read?
Street, First Street's got to do all the utilities.
Yep.
Well, I'm in a abstain from voting because that's the street I live on, but there isn't going to be a First Street if we don't do something soon from the 73 to
Yeah.
Elm Street. Because literally, I broke my leaf springs in my other car going down the road a few years ago. It's been better since we've been patching, but that section it's bad.
It is listed as one of the top priorities as number 3 We did number one.
All right, council,
So you're talking if it's 2 million to do First Street.
say it again, Rick.
You're talking 2 million to do First Street.
Could be, I don't know.
It's one of the larger projects.
If we got that match, it would actually be half.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about.
Sure, which would speak, you know, for a project that size, you know, if we were gonna save at $225,000 a year, it's gonna take us a
5 years.
significant period of time to pay for that project without half of the funding. So it might be a good one because it's a higher dollar value to select for LRIP.
Makes sense. 50% is 50%, so.
Sure.
Can we add another grant along with it?
We can absolutely try. We can
It'll take-
absolutely
yeah,
try.
Take how long to get this grant?
If, let's say we get it, let's say it's decided in the next legislative period, which would be next April, by the end of it, it's 2 years out before the money's available.
3 years from now, we get the money.
Pretty close. And I'll tell you what happened with Kenwood South. We got the money, and we had the match, and as time went on, other communities that had been approved could not come up with a match. So they put more money into ours, and ours dropped. Did it drop to 20%?
I don't remember.
I think it dropped down where our matching went down to 20% because other communities couldn't come up with their match on their big projects, so they gave us more money, which really helped us. I mean, we saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, but that doesn't mean it'll happen again. That may have been a one-time thing for us.
And with it being a bigger project, it might take us that long to get our match anyways. So,
Yeah.
It's also gonna take time to plan that project, right? So we need to have a project ready to be able to put together to apply for funding.
And as you
Not
heard what I
just-
said, if you don't have the match, you can downsize it or deny or state you can't do it. State takes back the money. There's no penalty, but they may question you when you apply another time down the road. That's the only negative, but that's happened numerous times in many cities because it is a large amount to come up with. Bigger cities are great, but the smaller cities really have a hard time with some of the matching. So I think you got all the information.
So we could make you happy by just going as far as that.
Yeah. Well, I have noticed that traffic tends to not use that street anymore. They go down Lakeshore Drive or they go to Second Street. So we're wearing out those streets twice as
Sure.
fast because nobody wants to drive down that section of First Street. Just observation.
Are we gonna want to alternate, Mr. Mayor, in case it
It's
gets
up to you.
denied for LRIP?
It's up to you. I mean, I would suggest, do you have a recommendation for, let's say that this does not go and they tell us apply for a different street?
For LRIP, the next one would be Sixth Street. That would get us somewhat close to a public entity like Park. It is 2 blocks off.
Okay, well, council, I guess it's up to you on the motion.
You said had to be connected to 73?
for LRIP, it has to be connected to 73.
I'll try it. I'll make a motion that we use project number 3 as our next project, and we apply for LRIP. If we're denied that, we move to project number 4 to 6th Street. Is that my understanding of the one, or is it the second one?
Excellent.
Number 4 for LRIP.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm abstaining.
And we have one abstain. Thank you. Motion carried. Okay, that brings the 6J Community Center rooftop unit quotes.
Yes, so in your packet, you have 2 quotes. Just to provide a little bit of background, in a previous budget, there was money set aside for a rooftop unit. With COVID and everything that happened, when it was time to purchase the unit and have it installed, the cost of just purchasing the unit exceeded what was budgeted for the unit itself. So at that point in time, discussion was had with council. The decision was made to store the unit and then budget monies in 2023 when we were budgeting to install 2 units and purchase a second one because there was a replacement plan of purchasing one every year. So the budgeted amount to purchase a second unit and install the 2 is $30,000 for 2023. You'll see 2 quotes in your packet. One is from D&E and one is from Region. They are both for the installation of 2, but to also purchase an additional unit. D&E's is a Coleman brand, and Region Electric is quoting a Lennox brand. Both are different than what we currently have up top. The reason they are different is the Rude brand has seen a 600% increase in price.
Correct.
So we can no longer afford that. These, Superintendent Edgar, can you share your thoughts on Coleman versus Lennox?
I cannot, those 2. Those I do not know enough about.
Okay.
I would feel comfortable with either one and one swinging one way or the other. I know that much.
What did we purchase prior?
Rude.
So we have one
We
room,
have 3 up there.
but,
We have one Rude to install.
yeah.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
yes. I thought you meant like how many are up there
Oh,
already
no,
that
I
we've
meant in the
replaced?
closet.
In the closet, okay.
Where Bridget.
Sure. We have one room that we purchased last year. And then this one this year would be one of these 2.
So there'd be 2 different units.
Yes.
Is that gonna be a problem?
600%?
600%.
That's crazy.
So we're not going to bring that to council.
Is it a problem to do 2 different ones?
Nope. Not at all.
So they're not connected to one another up on top of the roof. They just all filter into the system itself.
Correct.
So you, to me, recommend, you always usually go with the lowest bid, and you have no problem with lowest. So recommendation is the lowest bid, and they have been budgeted.
It's in the budget,
So,
Under budget.
under budget and in the budget.
Make a motion on Growth Regional Electric for $25,357.
very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 6K Riverside Arena part-time employee new hire discussion.
So yeah, just at the arena, we have 4 arena attendants and 1 supervisor down there. 2 of last year's attendants decided not to come back for this coming season. We found a couple of part-timers that were interested in this, and we were asking for approval of those 2 individuals. It'd be on a part-time basis of, I think, 15 hours a week, I believe.
It's no increase, it's just getting back up to staff.
Correct. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Council?
Have they been vetted?
So the process is always going to be a background check, especially in that setting. And so that will occur prior to, and your motion can be pending that. We were actually just made aware that they were interested, wanted to get it in front of council today. If council wants to make a motion of approval pending background check, that's great. We'll make sure that that process happens. We're just trying to get everything up and running and make sure we're ready in time for the season in about a month.
motion to approve, as long as it passes the background check.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 6L 2024 budget presentation. Before we do this, I know that the individual has been waiting here a long time, and it's probably because of police items or...
It is. Yeah.
Let's switch them around.
You will, if you don't mind, we'll go to K and we'll come back to L. So 6K, Police Department, excuse me, M, sorry. And this is the position that Sarah is currently in, and could you read the request?
Oh, yeah, so the request is to increase hours without, with the scheduling issues that we are experiencing, increasing the administrative assistant hours would help to provide additional coverage within the office. The request was to increase the hours to Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4. It was requested by council that I review the para obligation for the city. I was able to confirm that the administrative assistant is already meeting the threshold for para. So that is something that she is already receiving. So there'd be additional expense with wage and a little bit of an increased para amount. But all in all, it would be covering the additional hours. The Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4, she's currently working 24 hours a week. This would be moving up to 32, still under the threshold of full-time employment.
Discussion by the council?
Can I speak on behalf of that a little bit?
Yes, sir, come up.
Council, Mayor, Sarah does a great job. She's well needed at our department all day long. It doesn't stop at 2 o'clock. And when she's not there, it takes an officer off the street. There are plenty of times when I get called down to the police department because Sarah's not there to answer simple questions. So it's well needed and overdue. The other thing that I would ask, and I know it isn't on there yet, but that she gets certified to do fingerprints. That's another thing that pulls an officer off the street. That is a huge, it is something that we do down at the police department. We're one of the only police departments that really offer that. So we get people daily that drive from Duluth down here just to get fingerprints. And it's not once a day, it's 3 or 4 times a day. So, and once again, it happens after 2 o'clock. So that takes an officer off the streets that can't respond to calls, can't answer questions, do that stuff. So please take it under consideration that she is well needed there. Thank you.
Do we have appointment times for fingerprinting, or they just show up?
We do, and it's when the people can make it, so we accommodate
So we
everybody.
accommodate them?
Yes, and if we were to get Sarah, she would have to go to the BCA and get approved to do that, get certified to do that, because all law enforcement officers get certified when we go through the academies. It would be during the normal hours. I mean, right now, we accommodate everybody at all times. So, that's something that would be very important.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion or motion by the council? Any further information the council needs?
I guess I would make a motion to approve this. Right now, we are kind of at an influx, and I just think having staffing is very important to the community, so I would agree. This request.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. So you'll notify her,
Absolutely.
thank you. That training that was brought up, is that an expense?
It is an expense that can be reimbursed to the police department. Usually, training by the state, which that's required by the state if you're gonna do fingerprints, because it's a law enforcement officer job, can be reimbursed.
Do we have consensus that we look at that from the council?
I think so, and we do make money off
Oh,
of
we-
fingerprinting.
But we make money off it, yes, we do. It is a huge generator for our department.
I'd like to have consensus to see if we can schedule that training and,
Is that something she's interested in?
It is, yes, I've talked to Sarah about this, and you guys know what the staffing situation we have is, it's extremely tight right now, take an officer off the street. So it's beneficial to the community, it's beneficial to the department, and just everybody all around.
Greg? John?
Yep.
Yes. So we have consensus. Could you coordinate, because the chief isn't here, but we definitely gotta get him in the loop and talk with Sarah and see how we can schedule that, and that's greatly appreciated, you bringing that up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 6 and part-time police department coverage.
Yes, so council made a motion yesterday to approve one of the part-time hires and then in addition requested additional information. It was passed out to you today was just the additional information that was requested regarding the difference in pay from a 3 hours at 1.5 time overtime rate versus a 12-hour at regular pay. So those figures were provided for you today. And so the question that's still on the table is essentially if this is something that council would like to entertain to get another part-time, more part-time coverage and or additional shifts covered.
And how often would, do you know how often this would happen? Like, well, we don't, because we don't know when somebody can't make the.
Correct, correct. So right now we're getting coverage, well, we'll have more coverage from the additional part-time officer that was authorized yesterday. So it would be between what's being covered currently with all the officers in our department and the additional part-time hire yesterday. What would be remaining, this would be another option to cover shifts if council so chooses.
So open that up with the discussion with the council. I know that we're doing a budget thing and we do have to make some steps. I think one thing we can state that we cannot change anything in the current contract until we have an official document of what union that the department is under, the officers. And I think we need an official document. And I know that you are the new union rep.
Yes, so we, as a department, we have all agreed that we want to go with LELS. LELS has filed the paperwork with the state, notifying them that they will be representing us. The paperwork is just a formality which will be coming back within the next week. That's what I was told last week. They filed it on the 5th. So that should be coming back real soon. And then we will start contract negotiations with the city. As far as part-time, everybody, especially on this council, knows how short-staffed we are. In the law enforcement industry, we don't have a huge pool to choose from. People are not beating down the door to work in this industry anymore.
Nowhere, everybody's trying to hire.
Well, right, but especially in this industry, it is, everybody that comes out of school is already hired or offered a job before they even graduate. The part-timers all work for a department, that's why we have a hard time getting people to fill the shifts we have now with the part-timers we do have. If we have people that want to work part-time, I highly suggest we look at those folks. What we got going on. You know, there's a lot of shifts open, yeah. Counselors.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I've had people out on the street ask me, you know, about coverage, and I've been asked a lot about it. So people are concerned, they really are.
Any further discussion by the council and their motion?
Doesn't sound like we can act on this, actually.
Can we just table this?
We'll have to table this.
Say that,
We'll have to table
Table
this.
this.
We don't have, they don't have a union that they have. We can't be bringing this forward. That was my understanding.
Sarah, are we talking about Sarah, or are we talking
No,
about Dave?
we're talking about Dave.
He's
So-
already on our list.
No, I know that we're talking, you had mentioned something with the union, that until we have the union, we can't be changing things. Is that not, did I hear something wrong?
I better ask Alyssa.
So we did receive, with our notification of the filing, we did receive within their verbiage that, you know, at this time, everything's supposed to kind of remain status quo. Now, the part-time officers are not covered under the union. Just the full-time officers are established through the union. I don't believe this would impact that because we're not modifying schedule, wage, or process or protocol for any union officers. But I could also verify that because I don't know the answer to that. I just know that nothing can change for our union officers at this time.
The motion could be made with the condition that Alyssa checks, who would you check with? The union itself?
Probably Jim.
Yeah, I mean,
Or even our law firm, or, well, it would make sense with the union.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes, please.
Since we just got this information yesterday and this information tonight, can we table this for another time? Because I need some time to process it.
It's always up to the council's discretion.
I'm making a motion to table this.
With Dave till further discussion or further information?
Yes,
If-
or
if-
process.
Okay, so, do I have a second? Do you have a motion on the floor?
I'll
Do I have a
second, because I'd like to have some discussion about this.
Okay, did you,
I second it,
okay, you seconded it, so we'll open for discussion.
and I agree with that too, but I would like to be able to, at the mayor's discretion, call a special meeting, because I understand the staffing issue. I'm really perplexed by this proposal. With the shortage of people that are working in law enforcement as it is and elsewhere, they're being asked to do more and more and more, and now we're asking someone that's working a full-time job, and they're saying, I'll take as many as I can take, I'll take as many as these shifts, and they're carrying around a weapon, they're not sleeping, they're working a regular job elsewhere, and they're gonna be taking all these extra shifts. And I'm concerned about the well-being of the officer as well. So I'm wondering what type of cap we're putting on this, you know, how many open shifts are there, how often does this happen? Because at the end of the day, the person's well-being is more important than us going to shift.
it could be that assessment occurs of what type of shifts are being taken by the part-time hire that was approved yesterday. You know, maybe a presentation once interim Chief Patterson comes back regarding what shifts are left open for a span of time, I mean, all that information could be gathered in addition. I know what occurred yesterday will help. I just don't know the magnitude of how much it will help. And I think that could be assessed and then brought back to council.
Well, like I said to him yesterday, I'd like to take a look at the part-time roster, because I'm not sure everybody's being notified.
Okay.
Well, how about a suggestion, because you are the liaison, maybe you and Melissa can meet with the chief and discuss all these issues, and bring it back to the council. And if we have to have a special council meeting, we certainly can. If there is if you determine there is a real need and which we have heard that there is, and just confirm what's what and how you want, the things that you wanted to look at. And Councilor gotten in his input, considered into that, and then bring it back to the council. Okay, we have a motion, a second. Do you have any other discussion for a call for vote? No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Chief. You're welcome to stay, or we're gonna go over.
He's got 3 hours.
We're going to budget next.
Nice, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, moving back to 6L 2024 budget presentation.
So.
And set initial levy.
Yep, so tonight, wanted to have dialogue with council regarding setting the initial levy. That is a requirement of this particular time period, and I do need to report the initial levy to the county by the end of September. So what I have provided for council is documentation of a little bit of history on the levy itself and the tax rate to which the citizens have been taxed at. So what we have identified is through working with the Minnesota Department of Revenue, they partner with the counties, and net tax capacity figures are reported September 1st, by September 1st from all the counties to the state. So what information was available from a city perspective is the net tax capacity figure, and the city has always utilized it as a metric to assist with budgeting. It's not a requirement, your levy is what you set it, but the net tax capacity has always been utilized as part of the budgeting practices for the city. So working with Carleton County and utilizing the Minnesota Department of Revenue information, the proposed tax capacity that was reported September 1st for 2024 is $1,425,467. If you take that tax capacity and you times it by the tax rate, which has stayed the same since 2019, you come up with a figure of $987,306.27. That would be an increase of $82,914.86 over last year's levy. So with keeping the tax rate the same, the levy would increase $82,914.86. Below that was just a little bit of representation as far as what it would look like for each particular home value category, and just an estimate of what the monthly and annual difference would be for that type of increase. Again, that would be with keeping the tax rate for the 6th year in a row exactly the same. What has also been provided is some examples of increases. Now, I think it's really important to state that this is increasing the tax rate. So the column that's highlighted in yellow by each percentage. What that does is you're taking the new tax capacity figure of $1.4 million, you're timesing it by the tax rate, but adding an additional percentage for each. So I wanted to provide visibility to council as to what that would look like at a 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on % increase. Now, it's really important to stress what we experienced last year and kind of going away from what's the discussion or the terms utilized in the past. We don't set a levy with a percentage increase or utilizing percentages at all. Because the metric could be you're taking a percentage of what? Last year's levy, your tax capacity, you set your initial levy at a dollar amount. So I want to refrain from utilizing percentages because percentage of what is always the argument. So we're looking to set an initial levy. We're looking to utilize a dollar amount. I wanted to provide figures so that it was really transparent as to what the increase in property values would afford the city with a 0% rate increase, and then what the metrics would be with additional percentages.
So with that, we'll open up discussion. Now at a future date, we're gonna have the whole budget presented
We
to
are
us.
absolutely going to. We've got a lot of moving pieces at this point, so it was important that this process occur. Essentially, the city has the authority to set whatever the levy be, and then the budget has to be within constraints of the levy, right? A lot of times it's setting your budget and then setting your levy. Well, with us only being 30% taxable, it's always been, you know, difficult for the city to operate, because then if your budget is inflated, then you're just taxing 30% of the people. So tax capacity has always been a tool that Moose Lake uses, and it's kind of unique to just Moose Lake. A lot of cities budget in different ways, but this is the tool that we have in it, and it works well for our unique circumstance.
So any questions by the council? And we will have to make a motion on the tax rate, the dollar amount.
The levy dollar amount.
Correct.
Just as a reminder, you can always go lower, you can never go higher.
So questions by the
So
council?
my question would be is if we went with a 1%, I'm just saying, 1% maximum, that would change the levy amount to $1 million, just over $1 million.
You got it.
Which would bring in $287,000 instead of $87,000.
Correct, correct.
And as we get through the next months, if we choose to go lower to the 987,000, we could. It's like you're setting your maximum that you can accept, and then setting the actual December meeting, we have to set our actual.
There isn't a huge difference between the 1, 2, 3, and 4%. It's when you get to the 1%, you're actually getting $200,000 more.
Correct, because you're utilizing 1% of the new tax capacity, so you have the increase in the property value and then the 1% rate increase on top of that. That is why there's such a significant jump on that.
Council?
We've been tending to go, obviously, if you look at the last X amount of years, since 2019, we've been going zero anyhow. However, I do think that it would be wise if we chose something on the left side of like the 3% or something of that nature. Because we can't go back up, as we've talked about in the past, and we have consistently gone down to zero, but we take all of our options away if we do not do that. So I would make the motion that we go with the 3% to start, because we will be changing it possibly before December anyhow, so that would be my motion.
If you do, your motion will have to state the dollar
It would
amount.
be $1,030,069.53.
That is your motion.
Yes, it is.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any further discussion?
In other words, we could never go any lower,
You can't go any higher.
but we could never
You
go
can't
any
go
higher,
higher.
No higher, but we will set the actual in December.
ever again.
You can go lower.
That's right, you can, I mean, that has to be that from now on,
Well, that
For
would,
the year.
a year every year.
right, next year you could go lower than that. I mean, you set it by a dollar amount.
We have
The
a
ones,
1%.
okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it stays at that dollar amount
Right,
that you end up with from then on.
correct. Until the next year.
Yeah.
Did I hear a second?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there anything else, Alyssa, that you need with that budget at this time?
No, I don't think so.
Very good. Moving on to 7A Minnesota Senate Finance Committee presentation.
Yes, so
I'm gonna take a second, go ahead, please.
yes, the city was notified in very short order that our project submission for an I&I reduction project was selected as a tour stop for the Minnesota Senate Finance Committee. And so we were notified that within a couple of days, there would be a tour bus stopping here, full of state senators, and that we had 30 minutes to kind of, to wow them. So we talked about taking them to the ponds, we got shut down by the engineers, but we ended up having a really nice presentation here. And so what we did is we coordinated with the city engineers to come up with just what are the meat and potatoes of what the city's needs are. What are our unique circumstances? How is capacity at our ponds directly connected to development? And so I provided in the packet the presentation and bullet points of what was presented to the Minnesota Finance Committee. We won't know for a period of time. We requested $1.5 million. It is the bonding opportunities are always a match. And so there could be other ways that we could snag additional funding, but the city would have a contribution in a project of this magnitude. It was exciting. I would say that there was a lot of positive questions and engagement while they were here. Our city engineers actually got to experience the Senate Finance Committee at our stop, but then also at additional cities. And so the feedback that we got was that the committee was most engaged here. They asked the best questions here, and that they thought it went very, very, very well. So that was a plus.
Thank you. Could I bring up a couple pages on this?
Absolutely.
I think if when everyone looks at this, page 104 and page 105, what you laid out here has created such a great visual of how we can solve our I&I issue for $400,000. We have, in this estimate, we have 88 existing manholes at 32,000 gallons per day of I&I. It's estimated with the $400,000 that we could fix those manholes, we could line them. That's $4,545 per manhole. That reduction of 32,000 gallons a day, if you extrapolate that out, is 11.6 million gallons of water that we're treating a year, that we could fix that for $400,000. And I talked to Public Works Director, Phil Etner, and he had broken down, I believe, or had some, how many households that would make, that we could put more households on the system.
That's equivalent to 316 households.
316 households, and we keep talking about 316 households, we keep talking about the lining projects cost so much money. So for $2.6 million, we would be treating or fixing 16 million gallons of wastewater or I&I issues. But for $400,000, we can treat 11.6 million and add more capacity to our ponds, and we would be able to have, in theory, 316 more households or users on our system. That to me is just amazing, just by lining our manholes. If that information is factual,
Right.
I think that we're missing the boat by doing all the lining. I think we should be focusing on the manholes, especially the ones that are impacted by the water table on the lake.
Sure. By not doing the lining, you still have a utility that's 7 years old, 20 years past its
Yeah.
life expectancy, you know.
I'm just talking about focus.
Yep. no,
I'm
I
saying
totally
initial
get it.
focus. If you can do $400,000 worth of manholes and get our capacity to where we need, because we had, the township wanted somebody else, we have possibly new housing. That solves an immediate, that doesn't mean that we're not fixing 70 to 80-year-old stuff, but we don't have 2.6. But we could possibly come up with the 400,000, or at least find out the ones that are the worst and fix those ones and see where we're at,
Right. If that's an accurate number.
if it is.
Right.
That's all I had. I was just excited with, when you do the math, that's a lot of households, and that's a lot of I&I that we're paying to treat. And that doesn't even, what's the cost of treating that?
Right.
You know, I'm just talking about capacity, I'm not even talking about what the cost is. We just saw a bill in there for $12,000 for treatments. So, that's exciting. If we choose to do it.
We have some real good possibilities to work with. And right now, we have this plan in place. In the next month, and it depends on how this, how you're granted, but future planning now for projects next year, we need to be planning next month. We have to be. In fact, we did talk about that at the last engineering meeting. That's just something the council needs to think about. If we're gonna go ahead and have dedicated money for lining next year, how we utilize that amount. And I know you have a hand up, Phil, and the money that we're going after to solve all of this,
Yeah.
that fits in through the, yes, please.
We did that right away this year with the lining project, because we had bids, I think, in May, which turned out to be too much. Gave us plenty of time to go back,
Yep.
revisit another project, still get a project done in 2023. So I would agree with you completely then.
Yep, so that discussion has to be made, and I know there's some prep work that has to be done, but it has to come forward next month. Now, I don't know if you guys want to handle it, or if are you thinking of maybe a committee to work on this, to streamline it, to help things go quicker?
We gotta know exactly what we're working on first.
Yeah?
If it's a lining project, that's piece of cake. But there's nothing to it. I mean, if it's some type of big manhole project or whatever, there's gonna be a little bit more to it, but nothing.
Okay, so you're saying within this office, and you guys can...
Yes, absolutely, and the engineering group, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
When you talk to the Senate Finance Committee, are they aware that we're at somewhere around 29-30% tax?
That was presented.
We did.
That was
We did.
presented. Yep.
We invited MSOP, DOC, the hospitals, the school districts, the sewer board, the paper, just a whole gamut, and tried to show community support for the project as well.
And Lissa, working with the engineer group, put together a real good presentation.
State agency.
So DOC sent somebody, yes.
The warden couldn't make it, but he did send the appropriate
I mean,
people.
just because we have
Right.
big state
Yeah.
agencies that have
We
half
did-
of
we
the lake
mentioned
that.
You mentioned our population and how that's broken down, how they are the largest population in the city. and,
Well, and they take up the most taxable land too.
percentage of the usage of our system. So in a very short time, a lot was presented,
Yeah.
but Alyssa and Phil and the engineer group put together a real good program for them. I thought it went really well.
This is amazing what you provided with the short period of time, yeah, I just, that paints such a great picture for the city, and everyone should see that, what you did, so thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah, any other discussion on it? But good job, thank you. It's early, right?
What's that?
Nothing.
I was just stretching, I wasn't looking at the clock.
7B, 2024 LMC membership dues.
This is just for your information and a communication that LMC sent out to all cities. I just wanted you to have visibility to it.
Anyone interested? All right, moving on to 7C, First National Bank, thank you. There's a card in the packet.
Yep, that was for the utilization of the Twilight Field for their company event.
I guess it was real good success and they had a lot of fun.
Yes.
Moving on to committee and board meeting minutes, 8A Park and Recreational Board meeting minutes, August 7th, 2023, and I will get my list into you, Phil.
I will be looking for it Monday morning.
All right. 8B Moose Lake Area Fire District, Protection District meeting minutes, August 8th, 2023. Anything you want to report to us, Walter?
Our executive officer at the fire hall has resigned.
Okay. And anything else?
No.
That's okay. On number 9, announcements, regular Moose Lake City Council meeting Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, 4 p.m. Moose Lake City Council, right here. Moose Lake Economic Development Authority, Wednesday, September 30th, 2023, 12 p.m. at the City Conference Room. Moose Lake Water and Light Commission, regular meeting Tuesday, September 19th, 1 p.m. at the Water and Light Office. Moose Lake Housing Redevelopment Authority Board, Monday, October 9th at 11 a.m. Hillside Manor Office. Moose Lake Area Fire District, Tuesday, October 10th, 6:30 p.m. Emergency Response Center. Moose Lake Park and Recreational Board meeting, Monday, October 2nd, 5 p.m. Right here. Are there any other items or statements by the council? Administrator? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.